Aperture refers to the actual size of the opening in the lens through which light passes, and is represented by an f number or an f-stop. Aperture not only affects the exposure, but it also plays a significant creative role as it controls the relationship between your focal point and the background and foreground of the image. Think of aperture as the pupil of your eye. A wider aperture means a larger opening, allowing more light to reach the camera sensor. A narrower aperture means a smaller opening, resulting in less light entering the camera. The concept of f-stop can be a bit confusing at first, as the bigger the aperture, the smaller the f-stop number. This is because the f-stop number actually represents a ratio between the focal length and the diameter of the lens opening. I don't want to get too technical with the math behind it, as with time and practice, you'll learn to recognize what a lower f-stop like f2.8 looks like versus a higher f-stop like f16 looks like. Understanding how they affect your image is the only thing that actually matters and the only thing that you really need to understand. So the important thing to remember is that the f-stop value is inversely related to the size of the lens opening. A smaller f-stop number like f1.8 represents a larger aperture opening, allowing more light to come in the camera. Conversely, a large f-stop number like f16 or f22 represents a smaller aperture opening, allowing less light into the camera. Each f-stop corresponds to a specific aperture size, and the sequence of f-stop is standardized as follows: f1.4, f2, f2.8, f4, 5.6, f8, f11, f16, and f22, and so on. Full stops are the whole number values, such as f2, 4, 8, etc. Half stops or third stops are in-between stops and are represented by the fractions. This is important because each full stop in the scale will half or double the amount of light that passes through the lens. For example, if you go from f4 to f8, it's going to half the amount of light entering the camera, while moving from f8 back to f4, it doubles it. Changing your f-stop or your aperture directly affects the exposure of the image. A smaller f number, meaning a wider aperture, allows more light to come in the camera, resulting in a brighter exposure. A larger f number, which is a narrower aperture, restricts the amount of light, leading to a darker exposure. When you change your aperture in one direction, either your ISO or your shutter speed will have to change in the opposite direction if you want to maintain your exposure. But aperture isn't simply just a mechanical control for exposure. It also has a really big impact on how the image looks, where you draw attention, and how much of the image is in focus and how much of the image is out of focus, and therefore what the message, the style, and the look of your photo is overall. A crucial aspect of aperture is its impact on depth of field. A shallow depth of field has the subject or focal point in focus while the background appears blurred. This is called bokeh or bokeh effect. On the other hand, a narrow aperture, so a higher f-stop number, creates a greater depth of field, keeping both the subject and the background in sharp focus, which of course is useful for landscapes, group shots, cityscapes, anything like that. Aperture allows you to control the artistic and creative aspect of your photography. By choosing a specific aperture setting, you can create different effects and emphasize certain elements in your composition. Experimenting with different apertures will help you understand how they impact your image and enable you to express your creative vision.